This is part 2 of your prehistory River Valley Civilization notes. India and China, 2500 BC to 250 AD. Early civilizations on the Indian subcontinent. The first Indian civilization developed in the Indus, and that's Indus, River Valley, and was called Harappan, named after the first city. And after the decline of this civilization, the Aryans came to dominate the region. They were known for their military technology, in particular their chariots, and for religious changes. Most of what we know about the Aryans comes from the book known as the Vedas, which are great works of religious literature. A complex social structure is laid out in the Vedas. The 4 social classes laid out in the Vedas are called Varnas, Varnas, and the priests in this system are known as Brahmins, and they were the highest social class. Vedas would become the basis for Hinduism, and one of the fundamental beliefs of Hinduism is in the belief in Brahman, who is the eternal being that created and preserves the world. So the Brahman is kind of like, is their version of our God. Hindus, however, also believe in reincarnation. They also believe in something called Dharma, Dharma, which is the belief that a person has the responsibility to live morally so that the soul can escape the cycle of rebirth. So Dharma, you have to live a responsible and moral life. And if you do so, you will eventually escape this whole cycle of being born and reincarnated over and over again. In 320 BC, the Mauryan Empire was established in India, and it ruled for 150 years. Before this empire, Buddhism had already begun. It was founded by Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as Buddha, or Enlightened One. Like Hinduism, Buddhism believed that desire had to be eliminated from people's lives, and Buddha also taught that salvation comes from knowing what he called the 4 Noble Truths. Buddhism flourished in India under the leader Ashoka. It would continue to grow for 500 years until in AD 320 the Gupta dynasty arose. The Guptas, however, favored Hinduism over Buddhism, and Hinduism, as a result, became the dominant religion and remains so today. Civilization in China. China is a very large country with great geographic diversity. You have mountains, you have plateaus, you have valleys. It's very, very diverse. It's so large. The early kingdoms. The Shang dynasty was the first to unite China in 1766 BC. It was known for having a complex bureaucracy, or government agencies basically, to run the government. Okay. The Zhou dynasty overthrew the Shang in 1150 BC, and they believed that rulers had a mandate from heaven. In other words, the gods chose the rulers. A leading philosopher at the time named Confucius helped explain the changes the Zhou were making. So Confucius kind of stepped in and assisted the Zhous in explaining all the changes they were making. The Qin dynasty took power in 221 BC. They ruled for only 15 years, and the emperor was very, very harsh. National defense was extremely important to this emperor, and as a result, he was the one who built the Great Wall of China to act as a barrier and for protection. The Han dynasty would take power in 206 BC. They followed Confucianism also, and there was peace and prosperity during their rule. The prosperity was the result of the flourishing trade along the Silk Roads. And Silk Roads were these trade routes that went from China to the Mediterranean Sea, which basically linked China to the west, to Europe. One major trade good was the Chinese invention of paper. So paper is really going to spread and leave China. Some of the belief systems of the civilizations in China were Confucianism. Confucianism valued family and the respect for one's ancestors. And so you'll see in people that practice Confucianism a lot of regard for ancestors and these rituals involving honoring ancestors. Taoism taught people taught that people should strive to bring themselves into harmony with the force that governed the universe and nature, which was Tao, okay, rather than spending their lives pursuing power and wealth. So you're supposed to try to bring yourself into harmony with nature instead of pursuing material goods. That's Taoism. Legalism was very popular during the Qin dynasty, which makes a lot of sense because that was a very harsh ruler. And followers of legalism believed in instituting harsh laws because they believed that people were inherently selfish and untrustworthy. So they needed harsh laws to keep them in order. Buddhism would spread to China during the Han dynasty. And so Buddhism has a presence in China. So that's just a brief overview of the Indus Valley civilizations and of the ones in China. These are some of the terms used in this presentation. You can check your spelling with this slide.